I did think about it yesterday, like as we were talking about putting the session in the diary, but there's just so much that's happened, like in the space of a month. When you think about where we were day dot, like, you know, all right, what does our first day look like?
I was about to say that Monday morning of like, so what are we doing?
Yeah, but in terms of things we've learned.
Well, the obvious one skill set wise would be finessing cold outreach. So
Yeah.
taking a team or a agency from like being completely anonymized and unknown to trying to get it out there without being spammy, and persevering with new comms every time you email rather than just generic messaging and all of that stuff. Like that's been a steep, I think, been a steep learning curve. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same, but
Yeah,
the skill of sales, yeah,
like
sales, yeah, sales.
just cold hard sales. Because I mean, when you work at a bigger agency, you've got publishers coming to you, you know, and you've got a pipeline for new business usually, because you're, you know, part of a holding co. You've got a recognized brand in market. So, trying to build a brand and be reputable while also reaching out to people is like, yeah, it's a whole new world. Like we're not used to being like, you know, people not responding to our emails, or people, you know,
Yeah.
having to do the initial reach out yourself.
And not
So
even
yeah,
in an arrogant way, just like just from the nature of the business that you sit in versus going
yeah,
into the complete other side of a business. Yeah,
yeah,
you're not used to that. And people kind of say that you need sort of thick skin for that. I haven't really found that. I think you just need patience and probably a realistic expectation. Like we were nicely advised by someone that it's probably going to take 3 or 4 before you get any sort of response. So not losing, not losing sort of heart and um,
yeah,
the motivation to do it just because someone doesn't reply to you or whatever. Like you just got to.
yeah. I think this actually leads into another point. I think something that obviously we learned from Mitch at Commission Factory, and something that kind of, as I said, ties into that secondary point that I have, is that like the tips and the tricks, like of like selling or doing things that you haven't done before, the learning journey is a lot less steep when you like you reach out to and you kind of lean in on your network. So like
Mhm.
here's like we talked about, we've been tracking our, you know, conversion rate in terms of like the emails that we send and the responses that we get back, you know, either in totality or the people that actually request like emails. I mean, sorry, calls. That rate's gone up just from Mitch telling us like, hey, alternate your chases, give people different looks, and in that way it becomes like harder to, one, it feels less spammy and less like
Mhm.
automated, and like there's a personal touch to it. And two, it's kind of like, okay, instead of saying or ignoring one person, you're ignoring two people now. So like I guess maybe there's like a bit of like that human factor that comes into it. It's like, okay, like
Yeah.
there's two people reaching out here, I might as well touch base. But yeah, that little trick like doubled our conversion rates over the course of a fortnight, right? Like we went from cold outreach at, you know, around 8% response to like 16% just from using that trick and doing a second chase. And then I think the next frontier is going to be like calling people, you know,
Yeah.
really kind of basically waiting for the no to come. And until it comes, assuming that, you know, we just haven't, you know, gotten in touch with that person in the right way. But yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying we've learned so much from just being humble and reaching out to as many people that we know, whether they know a lot about the affiliate channel or not. More so just saying, okay, we want to learn about independent agencies. Let's talk to people that work in independent agencies within the network. We want to know more about publishers and like what, like, you know, what they see in market from agencies and what they see in market from advertisers. And so we reach out to them. We talk to people client side, like just like being humble about the fact that like we don't know everything, and
Mhm.
you know, reaching out to people and going, hey, you know, and in some cases they're surprised that we're reaching out to them, but we're like, no, like anything that you can share with us about your experience helps us as we've learned in this business. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So like that information you kind of store in your brain. And so when a problem comes up, you're like, oh, I remember Laura talking about this. I remember Matt talking about it. I remember Terrence talking about this. Like, you start like, you have someone that's already gone over the hill in your network. So you might as well kind of get that information from them so that you're armed for like a problem that might come up in the future. So that's been like the amount of people that have just given so freely because we've reached out and gone, hey, you know, we're new to this, we need a bit of help. You know, like if you give us an ear, like we'd like to take you through what we have and just get some honest feedback. It's been that feedback is, I think it's helped us overcome problems that we didn't even know that were potentially going to come up, and like, you know, spend the journey for us a lot. So yeah, leaning on network is an old cliche, but yeah, it's been
and people have been generous, man. Like to give up their time and go into so much effort, especially when we were looking for feedback on like creds decks and stuff. Like people were, not only did we reach out and ask for a favor, but people do listen and hear you out. And I do wonder if that is, there's an element of relationships with that. Don't get me wrong. But I was talking to someone about this the other day from one of the tech providers, and we were both sort of saying like there's an attitude in the channel, probably from where it's been and the reputation it's had, that everybody wants to. There's an element of competition, small element of it, obviously, because everyone's got commercial interests and propositions to sell. But there's a commonality of we also want to lift.
There's a common interest. Yeah,
exactly. You want to lift the channel because it is an out of scope service and it does sit outside of the kind of staple pillars of digital media still, although it is changing. So everybody in the channel has this strange, not strange, but they have this dual interest of, yes, they've got this selfish commercial interest of their business and their role and what they're doing, but there is this, I think, need and desire from everyone involved to raise the profile of the channel. And you only need to look at the in-channel conversations we've had, people giving up their time, partners, tech vendors, everybody, the amount of information that they've been willing to share, not just in feedback, but based on in the context of their own business.
Yeah.
Kind of says like there's a real commonality of a need and a want to raise the profile of the channel, because like they say, in high tide all boats rise, you know what I mean? So
on that point, just how big the agency world is and like the amount of business that's out there, I think you get like, you kind of obviously look at a certain tier of business or a certain like, you know, subset of brands, but there's just so much more out there, you know. Like it's the fact, I mean, we're looking at the IMA list of agencies and kind of working through that from an outreach point of view, and you know, there's 150 plus independent agencies on that registry. You know, you think about some other agencies that potentially aren't out there. There are agencies popping up left, right, and center all the time. And then you think the same about brands, right? There are so many brands out there that, you know, in the B2B space or, you know, direct to consumer, that are hitting critical scale in terms of e-com, you know, every day. So there's just more and more opportunity out there. And I think that was the thing that I was probably like, you know, you quit your job and you're kind of like, okay, like I hope I've made the right like bet here in terms of opportunity, right? Like I hope I haven't come in too late in terms of like the curve of adoption. And to come in and you know, one, see that a lot of like a lot of agencies or a lot of clients are, you know, haven't engaged in the service has been interesting, but to see just how many new business opportunities and how many like agencies are out there working in the industry, that was very, very eye-opening. And the other thing is like there's so much to learn from as well. Like everyone has a slightly different way of doing it. Like obviously you look at indie websites and they all, if you're looking through 150 between the two of us, they all kind of blend into one. But how many times did we reach out to each other to go, this site is amazing. Like,
some of the websites.
Yeah, this proposition is really cool. Or like the way that essentially all the work that we're doing is very similar, right? Like you know, if you distill everything, we're trying to, get like connect brands with customers. But the way that people articulate it or the way that people visualize it, yeah, we've taken a lot from that journey. So just realizing how big this space is, like how big the agency world is, like coming out of the bubble of, like being in a global agency, I think that's like, it's really, really cool. Three things, or like a couple of things that we will focus on moving forward. I don't know about you, but something I've been feeling of maybe the last 2 weeks, when like the first 2 weeks were just cold outreach, hustle, like really trying to get the word out there that we were kind of, we started our agency, but then also, yeah, trying to sell our proposition into people and get feedback from people on it. I think there's naturally I assume there'd be more of a lag between that happening and then opportunities actually coming up.
True.
So I think naturally you kind of throw outreach, or you throw like, a few things, deprioritize a few things in the like building of the business aside and focus on actual fulfillment when those opportunities come up. So I think being able to juggle both is like, finding a way to do that is going to be important. That's like, we've got commitments now that we need to, fulfill. And that's going to be really important to how we gain trust in market and, hopefully recurring business. But then also making sure that like we know the lead process, like in terms of initial outreach to actually getting an opportunity across the line takes a long time, and it takes nurturing, right? So like not dropping the ball there, but also so like balancing the two is going to be something that like I think we'll need to learn more about, and like make sure that we're kind of dividing and conquering between the two of us, because yeah, we're not in the luxury of like just being able to focus on current business. It's like, that's great, and like I said, it's been really like encouraging to get stuff across the line this soon in the piece. We expected that to take a much longer time, but balancing the two is probably something that I think, yeah, we'll need to focus on for sure. But yeah, keen to hear what you think as well.
No, honestly, that's actually sparked two kind of follow-on thoughts in my mind, which is number one, be in mind, like you just said about the kind of the lack of lag in some cases with new business opportunities, just being mindful of that is not a one size fits all. So we might have a conversation. We've had a conversation with people where it seems like the interest is very high, and it probably is. But we also have to be mindful of the people we're speaking to are generally heads of digital, founders, or MDs or CEOs.
Yeah.
Just assuming that because they are very interested in the channel, that they have the time to compile everything together that we need to get going. Like there is still a lag. Do you know what I mean? So there's no single response to our pitch where we can go, okay, we should probably get an X brief in X amount of time. Sometimes it comes over really quick. Like there'll be an example you'll know of and think of that it all happened very, very quickly, and now we're moving quite far down the line at a pace. But there's been others where we've come out thinking there's a big opportunity there like this, but conversations need to happen. Other people internally need to get brought on a journey. Clients need to get brought on the journey. Like it does take time. So that prioritization of work, like you just said, I think is going to be really important. And the second thing it made me think of is I love the fact that we're both not desperate, it's the wrong word, but excited for the long days, the long nights, like the having too much work to do, so you've got to work a Sunday morning. Like that's the motivation as opposed to being the dread, and that allows us to A, be mentally prepared for it, but B, continue when we talk to brands and agencies to say we are not going to win the business and then give you to a different member of staff. Like the people that you see in this room will carry you all the way through to whatever the success point and the end date is of this. And being able to like stand there authentically and go, that is a commitment that we can adhere to, I think is quite important for people. And B, for us, just means that we just know however much work we've got on, like we have an obligation to A, do it to the highest quality that we've promised, and B, do it in the time frame that we've said. So
Yeah.
being mentally prepared for that when it does eventually come, because it will just snowball.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely something that I think we're looking forward to, because it shows a sign of success that we're doing something
Yeah.
right.
You want to be busy. I think, yeah, that's a really good point. I think two things that, again, you made me think of just then. One being, you really can't, like, there's a lot of adrenaline that like comes into, like, because you're so accountable, and because it's like literally like, something that we're building from the ground up. Like, the smallest wins are so exhilarating, like getting a scope signed off, getting a response to a cold
I was just
outreach,
about to say that. I was just
like
about to say that.
getting, you know, getting asked for a pitch,
Yeah.
like getting, obviously, getting money hitting the account, like, it's, all those things are amazing. And I think the thing that I try to remember as well is that, like, there will be the opposite as well.
Yes.
Like, like, and to maintain a level head. Like, I've got, obviously, we have a lot of people in our lives that care about us a lot, and like are always asking about how things are going. And like, you tell them about little milestones and stuff, and they're so excited for you. And then I kind of get a few responses where it's like, oh, it doesn't seem that like you're that like happy, or like you're that excited. It's like, no, I am, but like I'm also very aware that we're
This
very
could all
lucky,
change. Yeah.
and it could all change, so like just trying
True.
to like keep a level head, and like be like, okay, it's great that it's all going like this right now, but like not to rest and not to settle, like
Yeah.
just to like
100%.
kind of keep the foot down and like stay mentally strong, I think is yeah, is
And
super important.
nothing's ever done until it's signed. That's the other thing. And that's not really, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a CAM learning. I think that's just from being in
We know
media,
that.
like jumping the gun and being like, we've got this, or we've got, and things change, right? And
Yeah.
we're very aware of the fact that right now, at least when we are being exposed to agencies and clients, we are going to be the lowest priority, because we're new, we're untested, we're a nice to have, but for right now we're trying to become a staple. But we also know that there's other commitments, right? So not jumping the gun of we've got this, or we've done that, or we're gonna have this, like, doesn't work like that until it's done.
Yeah.
And just being cognizant of that, I think, as well, has been a good learning curve.
I guess one more thing that I want to focus on, which is like a bit of a stretch goal for me, is I think I want to be a little more like, so, I told you, obviously, like the Victorian government has this like great initiative. I don't know if it's actually a government initiative or a library initiative, the State Library of Victoria, but they have this startup space for new businesses. And obviously I've kind of joined that. And, as part of that, they have like an office space, but then presentations on, from experts in the field about doing different things. And one of the workshops they had yesterday was on pitching. And one thing I realized about our pitch positively, and I told you this, is obviously that we took the time to create like a distilled pitch document that is simple but like effective, and distills our offering in a way that's like very like doesn't use jargon, straight to the point, appeals to a need, like ticks all those boxes. So that was like very validating. But the thing that I thought was like a massive growth opportunity was like the person that was kind of doing the explanation of the content had mentioned that he receives like 20 emails every 10 minutes. And the thought of that made me realize, like, okay, like, and you brought this up as well, like we do need to start calling, we do need to start like, you know, I took that a step further in my mind, was like, there's so many agencies here that I can just pull up on,
Yeah.
and there's nothing stopping me from going into an office and talking to a receptionist, or like finding a way to get in contact with someone at that agency via LinkedIn or whatever it may be, not to the point of like annoying them, but just noticing or noting the fact that people are so busy and they have like very, very finite time to read through emails of all things. So I think I'll need to kind of bring the pride down a bit. And like, obviously, like we've said over the course of the last, month, we'll do anything for the business. I think like to just go out there and like put myself out there a bit and just be like, all right, like, I'm actually going to pull up on some agencies and I'm going to try and find someone at a brand or, go into like a storefront or something like that and be like, oh, I love this brand. Like, could you put me in touch with like a marketing contact, yada, yada, yada type of thing. So yeah, next month.
I love that. Let's do it. I'm completely in that in terms of in the trenches with you. I think that expands itself into networking events and trade press, and I think we need to. It's not something that we're comfortable with naturally, but it's something that we need to do. And I think we're both aligned on anything for Cam. So yeah, we'll do it.
Exciting times, man. Exciting times. It's been a hell of a month, man. Hopefully we can kind of keep the momentum going. But
it's going to be great to watch these back as we go through the year, which I'll definitely do. I think it'd be nice to see the documented journey